Now, an AC Ace essentially was the car that became the early AC Cobra. No, it doesn't look like a Cobra, does it? It is a recreation of the car's original body, which was built in Venezuela for sports car racing. So that car you can see lining up on the fourth row of the grid, up by the pit wall, with the red, blue and yellow of Venezuela. And just one of so many different shapes here. There are barely two cars that are the same on this grid. There's a clutch of Lotus 10s, Lotus Bristols, and there's two or three Maserati A6s, but other than that, there is such huge variety. Right towards the back, the final car on the grid is Bruce McWhirter, car number 22, TOJ1 is its registration. TOJ, short for Tojeiro, John Tojeiro, who designed the MG Sports. And away we go. Flag drops, very slow getaway indeed from Manuel Elisab in the middle of the front row. He's just been swamped by everybody, but our poleman Miles Griffith leads them, and the Burgundy Maserati, Josef Otto Rettenmeier, I think, up into second place, Bruce.
But the car of the middle of the front row, Manuel Elisab, literally went backwards, then going into Madgwick, hand up from the driver who started the outside of the front row, Malcolm Gammons, and that MG engine Lotus. So two of the front runners,
yeah, he's pulled off on the
big
left.
Problems early on, but brilliant start from pole position by Miles Griffiths. Fired up by already having done a practice session, had to sprint down, hop into this less powerful car, this Keith. He's driving it absolutely beautifully. There he is with about half a second's advantage already, turning into the second part of St Mary's, up over the rise, then into the compression, going wide but not too wide. That's perfect to set himself up for Lavant.
Yeah, the Keefton period raced at Le Mans 24 hours in 1954, so it's got good high-speed history. And Miles Griffiths knows how to pedal a car around Goodwood. He's done plenty of that, and already starting to creep away.
And he's doubled his advantage by the time he came to the exit of Lavant, the second part of the Lavant and Maserati. From fifth place on the grid, Josef Otto Rettenmeier, we heard from him before, he's up into that second place. And then three body shapes. Let's go for a Lotus moment back in third position. Noi 1, it's car number 25, that's Olivier Marseille. That's a Bristol engine example. He's driving that really well down.
Yeah, that's the Lotus Mark 10 with that really distinctive finned rear end and a huge looping spin. Luckily, no damage done for Paul Steed. That's the Buckler DD1. Again, another unique shape in this field, as the Kieft leads by 2 seconds across the line. Josef Otto Rettenmeier in second, Oliver Marseille in third. Fourth place, car number 23 from 6 on the grid, Malcolm Paul in his Lotus. Well, that looked like a little bit of cold tyre and competitor avoidance there. And again, got away with that. It
breathe in, compose, and take off again. So a small error comes to a swift conclusion, but fortunately one that doesn't remove the Buckler from the race. So car 38, Paul Steed coming in that Buckler DD1, now driven into the paddock. So he's recovered, but not to continue in the race. But at the end of the opening lap, 2.2 seconds clear of the pack, and pulling further clear with every corner he takes. Miles Griffiths, the number 5 Keeft, going beautifully. Josef Otto Rettenmeier and Olivier Marseille up into fourth place. Car number 23, Malcolm Paul, and into fifth, Manuel Elisab, thinking, what did I do wrong at the start of the race? Well, you shed 3 positions before you got to Madgwick, an awfully slow start. And the driver from second place, Josef Otto Rettenmeier, has got the bug of going for a spin. It's still the colder tyres, maybe. Yeah,
no, I think so, probably. I mean, the track temperature isn't exactly high, so that moves the moss green car, the Lotus Bristol, the Lotus Mark 10 of Oliver Marseille, up to second place. Noi 1 on the registration. 23, Malcolm Paul in third, another Lotus Mark 10. Then recovering to fourth place is the car that sort of started from the middle of the front row, Manuel Elisab. He's up to fourth place in the Maserati, and then in fifth place is the white Porsche Speedster. Again, of all the shapes, it's probably the one that most people can pick out, because a 356 Speedster is still a fairly recognisable shape. That's Martin Stretton, again, very recognisable helmet. One of those that you always spot, and behind him, with the big 527 lettering down the car, from 9th on the grid, Adrian Sucari in another of the Maserati A6 CTSs.
Well, we're about to have a change of second position because Malcolm Paul attacking, and there was no answer from Olivier Marseille. So one Lotus surpasses another. Emmanuel Elisab, which should be catching the pair of them. Look in the background of the shot, that red Maserati, but he's not as nimble as these glorious little Lotuses round the first part of Lavant into the second part of Lavant and onto the kink.
Yeah.
No, sorry, it's Samaria. My apologies there.
Yeah, Elisab not as quick as the Lotuses either, but if they start to dice, they're going to hold themselves up. In the red car, number 23, Malcolm Paul, with the fastest first sector of the race of anybody on this lap, but Miles Griffith, end of the story for a smoky Porsche, and Martin Stretton bails out of his first ride of the day without completing the race, and that is very unusual for Martin. So it looks as though that was a mechanical, so the mechanical frailty has cut a swathe through our front runners already.
Every one of the front row starters has had a problem now, apart from race leader Miles Griffith. 7.5 seconds clear at the end of the previous lap. He is soon going to be out of sight of the others. The second place battle just coming through the chicane now, and over the finish line, almost into Madgwick goes our race leader. He's going to be close on 10 seconds, I think, his advantage when Malcolm Paul will come across the line. Let's have a look. Goes across the line, now in second place. 10.2 seconds, 1 second clear of the second of the Lotuses. Olivier Marseille in third. Manuel Elisab still atoning for that poor start up into fourth. Martin Stretton should be fifth, but he won't be. It'll be Adrian Sukari. So we've got a lot of Maseratis up the front end.
Yes, and maybe because they've been raced successfully for so long, they're feeling a little bit more reliable. Miles Griffiths in the 1 minute 36s. Now that's where he qualified. His fastest lap in the race, 1:36.57. He did a 1:36.85 in qualifying. So in fact, with a full tank of fuel, he is going quicker than he managed in qualifying. Malcolm Paul in second place. He's just dipped into the 38s. His previous lap was a 1 minute 40, 1:38.6 in qualifying. He did the 1:38.6. So he's actually also a few hundredths of a second, or a few thousandths of a second quicker than his best lap in qualifying. Now a little further back, a little less able to produce the outright flying laps. There's the recovering Josef Otto Rettenmeier in car number 14, that burgundy Maserati. He's got work to do, hasn't he, to come up through the field.
He's fallen down to 16th place, now 15th. He's gone ahead of the other Rettenmeier, Stefan Rettenmeier. He's now attacking Luke Rethenau. No, Rethenau's behind. That's the silver Veritas and Nürburgring. The car's built at the circuit. And
that's a big grassy moment. That is a very big moment when the driver's being bounced around. These cars, of course, without seatbelts originally.
Well, that's St Mary's, all of it, and the bit beyond, the Leicester MG of George Edney. That was a real bouncer, but you know what? The car appears to be fine. The driver shaken but not stirred, and will continue into the race.
Yeah, and that's that really is a Code Brown moment. That's a proper scary one. Just coming through the shot, car number 4 from the tail of the field, Richard Pilkington in his 1954 pale blue Fraser Nash Sebring. The leader puts a lap on him already. This is the leader's 4th lap of the race, and he is already lapping traffic.
Now, where did it go wrong for George Edney? Well, into the second part of St Mary's, an absolute rodeo ride over there. And then, of course, all he's seeing is crops up ahead, and you don't want to drive into those. So a little rotation on the grass, a big moment. The Hart now coming down below 200 beats per minute, 180, 160, back into the race.
Yeah, maybe not heart rate dropping quite that quickly. I think the colour draining from his face, though, at huge speed. Here is our race leader, Miles Griffiths, the man who qualified on pole position. Now he's just backed off the pace a little bit. No 36.5s anymore. He's down to a 36.6, but it is still lapping quicker than anybody else in the field by around a second and a half, nearly 2 seconds lap. Second and a half quicker than Malcolm Paul, 2 seconds and more quicker than Oliver Marseille in third.
How easy is it to keep your focus up front? And it's clear he has kept his focus, lapping within a few tenths of his previous time, but he's about to come across a gaggle of the cars towards the back of the field. Out of the chicane he goes in that little Kieft. He's got a trio of cars. He shouldn't catch them until the exit of Madgwick. He doesn't want to catch them in that first corner, the double apex right-hander. If he can then pick them off down the straight before Ford Water, that is the plan. In fact, he's going to pick one off going into Madgwick. Yeah. Such is his advantage.
Well, he knows he's got nobody breathing down his shoulder, and that means that he knows when he catches traffic, he can pause 1, 2, just wait and look for the gap, and the gap will come. Beautiful car in shot at the moment. This is car number 16. This is Stefan Rettenmeier in an Oscar Italian-built car with an Alfa Romeo engine. And when you see that in the paddock, you think, well, they could have cleaned it a bit. It actually it clearly has had no restorative work since it was built in 1953-54. So a fabulous piece of original history, and just ahead of him, car number 77, and this is this slightly misfiring Playford MG of Massimo Bettati. You can hear it fluffing away. It's blowing a little bit of oil out as well. Have to say, Massimo looking down into the cockpit, looking at the gauges, I think he is destined for the pit lane.
I have found a trend. If you've got anything with the MG engine, unfortunately for MG fans, there's a problem. We had one starting on the front row, and for Malcolm Gammons, the problem was clear before he got to the first turn on the opening lap. You see George Edney bouncing across the field in his Leicester MG, spot the trend going on here, and the Playford MG smoking, popping, banging, and not for much longer, as Martin predicted. And Nostradamus Haven got that one right into the pits.
These will all, it's just the Mark 1 human ear roll that informed me. These will all have been T-Series MG, so the sort of pre-war car so beloved of fighter pilots, the MG T, D, F, and so on. Those are T-Series engines, so perhaps a little more frail than their 1960s counterparts. Across the line though, in the Kieft, once more comes Miles Griffiths. And you know, right now, Goodwood on a summer's day, he is really enjoying himself. A second problem for the number 9.
That's Tom McWhirter. He's had not the best of mornings for him, but that's the glorious little Tojeiro Bristol. As we were commenting, Martin, it looks like a sort of the nostrils of BMW, but there's lots of interplay and interchange back in the 50s. Yeah, between Bristol and BMW, because the Bristol engine basically was a direct photocopy of the pre-war BMW engine that was in cars like the 507, 508. So the 4-cylinder Bristol directly derived from that. The Kieft continues on its merry way, and again Miles Griffiths just keeps the car rattling around there in the 1 minute 36s in traffic. The last lap down to 1 minute 39s, but again he's got plenty of breathing space, no need to take any risks with other cars. The battle that may change is the battle for second place. Malcolm Paul, car number 23, ahead of the 25, also a Lotus of Olivier Marseille. 1.1 seconds between them in that battle for second place. That could be traffic affected, but the advantage ought to be in the hands of Malcolm Paul, being the leader of that pair. But for right now, red and yellow slippery track warning flag being shown to Miles Griffiths as he comes back down the Lavant Straight. Here's the battle for second place. The red Lotus of Malcolm Paul ahead of the moss green metallic version of Flavien Marseille. A couple of good battles up and down the field as well. Just saw the battle for, I think, what is 12th place come past us. 19 and 8, nose to tail. 19, these cars started sort of in the middle of the pack. You know, one driver, I was talking about the problems for people with their MG engines. It's completely coincidental, but there are still a couple out there. We heard from Alexander McQueen Cocklebaum. He's in 10th place. Car number 17, which is the Leco MG Sport, and also going fairly well. Let's look to see where he is. There's the Cooper MG as well. That's car number 21. Nigel Batchelor, he's down in 16th place. So again, 5 different companies with an MG engine aboard, and again with so much interplay, what's the most suitable engine? It's an under 2 litre category. Who's got engines available for that? We'll build a pretty, or maybe not so pretty, sports car body to go with it. Well, and you know, you couldn't go out and build your own engine quite so easily, so taking something that was off the shelf was definitely the way to go. George Edney we're looking at on camera now, car number 99, the Leicester MG. George is driving, started in 20th place and is currently in 15th place. Well, he was the one who went for the bounce, and this time his line through St Mary's was about 20 yards to the left of the previous time around. He was on the track. Oh dear. But not for long, he went off on the other side this time again. I think watching the mirrors as this battle for second place came under change. Well, it's flipped around, it was getting much closer. It was 0.8 of a second, down by 1/3 of a second from one lap to the next, and now we've got Flavien Marseille in front and back in front, because of course Malcolm Paul had overtaken him. He's got to do it again. And I'm sensing that Malcolm Paul there had just a little lift for confidence as the 99 car went off in front of him, and Oliver Marseille coming through on the inside, still on the inside. It's side by side as they come down to the chicane. Okay, this is not the place for bravery. This is like the old Eau Rouge, going door handle to door handle is not a good thought. And I just wondered who's going to get the better exit, and still in front is Olivier Marseille, but you don't really want to be on the grass when you're trying to put the power down. There isn't a lot of power for these cars. They're small, they're light, but Malcolm Paul should have the advantage, and so he does by the time he gets to. But 2 by 2 into the chicane is never going to work, and Malcolm Paul worked that one out. He thought, okay, right, I'll have to find another moment, but it was just by being on a slightly compromised line, even though he was in front. Olivier Marseille ran out of road on the exit and then couldn't put the power down, and then was passed by the end of the start-finish straight.
See the way he's leaning forward in the car to try and make it, urge it to go quicker.
We've all done it.
Well, you and I have a similar height when we're racing indoor karts and so on. Yeah, you're always leaning forward or bouncing or something to try and make the wretched thing go quicker because it hasn't got the power to deal with our height and weight. So Malcolm Paul eases away from Oliver Marseille in second place. And Miles Griffiths is a long way clear, 16 seconds at the beginning of the last lap ahead of his rivals.
One of the quickest drivers is still cursing himself. It's Joseph Rettermeyer, got up from 5th to 2nd, unfortunately went for a rotation. He's back into 7th place, but he's not going to catch the car that's next up the order in 6th, which is Matthias Silecki, who has got a buffer of 14 seconds. So I'm afraid that order won't change, but the battle for second place most certainly could, except Malcolm Paul's got his tail up. He's back into second now, and he is pulling clear.
Yeah,
and he's just banged in the fastest first sector of anybody all race.
Yeah, absolute flyer this lap. And this is the sort of pace that he put in to get up into second in the first place, then sort of settle down in a battle with Oliver Marseille in the moss green car. Marseille still trying to hang on to his coattails, but it seems that as the fuel weight lightens in the car, Malcolm Paul has got a bit more pace in hand, and he comes across the line again in second place, 16.5 seconds behind Miles Griffiths. And Griffiths was the clear fastest car in practice. Now, always say that you can't necessarily read everything into that, because practice can involve cars being out of place because they don't get as clean a lap as some of their rivals, but in this case Miles definitely had the advantage in the race that he showed in practice.
To be honest, the short length of the practice sessions does mask some of the performance. His advantage in practice was only under half a second, but in the race it's clearly been more than that. But don't forget, the driver who started second, Manuel Elisab, had that awful start, has been stuck in traffic, picking his way through, but in race pace, you know, he's lapping, unfortunately, for Manuel, about 3 seconds off the pace of the race leader.
Well, I think one of the secrets that Miles Griffiths has is he hasn't just got one quick lap in him. He's got that sort of pace every lap that he's sitting in the car, and that's what you see from all our pro drivers that you're watching. You know, touring car champions, Le Mans winners, IndyCar winners, IndyCar champions, whoever. They've got that relentless perfection. They've got that ability to hammer out the same lap time after time after time. And that's the difference. That's by keeping that pace up, by being close to the ultimate pace on every lap, not just as you and I would be, Bruce. You know, if we're lucky once in a calendar year, then that's where the difference is made. It's not that he's got a couple of tenths, is that he's always got a couple of tenths every single lap, and those add up.
Now, that was really unfortunate in that battle for second place. Malcolm Paul and Olivier Marseille going past Richard Pilkington in that number 4, Fraser Nash Sebring. Unfortunately for Olivier, this was his opportunity, but he put the power down too soon coming out of the chicane. Tail went a little bit sideways. Momentum, which they all will tell you in these under 2 litre sports cars is everything, unfortunately was removed before he even started to apply it.
But he is very slowly closing on Malcolm Paul. He's not got much time left. It's this plus one more. Actually, depending on where the leader is, they might actually get this plus
no,
two.
I think he'll be just short of that. So I think this is the penultimate lap of this 20-minute race, the Madgwick Cup for under 2 litre sports racing cars from 1948 to 1955. But it's been a masterclass from Miles Griffiths. He had a warm-up in a more powerful car. He just did the official practice session for the Sussex Trophy, legged it down the paddock, had his car waiting for him in the collection area, and there it is. It looks small, sleek, Italian. Oh, hold on a second. It's Italian red, but it's a Kieft. It's built in the UK.
Yep. Coming across the line in 8th, just past us, Nigel Winchester in his unique white and Venezuelan coloured machine. So Nigel started in 11th place, now up to 8th place after a couple of cars ahead of him had problems. He was just looking to have a fun time racing that unique bodied AC Ace Bristol. And 8th place finish behind Josef Rettermeyer at the moment. And here comes the leader across the line, 147, he's doing 136s, he could do another, he's doing 142s, he could do another lap.
Okay.
Unless he slows dramatically, and he might.
I
but
think
then if he doesn't know what the time is, he may well not do. He might have one more lap after this.
Miles Griffiths has really come off the pace. His last lap was a 1 minute 42. Once he got up to speed, he was doing 1 minute 36s, 1 minute 36s. May have been traffic, might be a problem. Maybe he's so far clear, but it's down to under 11 seconds, and it was almost going out by 2 seconds a lap before. But Malcolm Paul, we've got, unfortunately, that's the car we saw in problems earlier. I think pulled off at the side of the circuit white with the dark blue stripe. Was that the, I thought we'd seen that go into the pits. The
Paul Steed with the buckler.
Yeah, the Paul Steed car, but anyhow, off at the side of the circuit. Not our race leader there. He is into the compression, out of the compression, up to Lavant. It's a double right-hander, but all on his own. Driven beautifully by Miles Griffiths, this number 5 Kieft.
Well, it's going to be very close to the end of time as he gets to the line. So the checkered flag will be ready, whether it is thrown or not. Depends.
40 seconds from there, he could get through as he powers down towards Wood Curtain.
Well, if he's doing a 1 minute 42 or 43 lap, as he has been for the last couple, then time will be up a couple of seconds before he gets to the line. If for any reason he goes any quicker at all, then there will be a couple of seconds remaining on the clock. So
okay, he's coming on to start-finish straight now with 18 seconds remaining. He's, I don't think he's going to be able to back off enough.
Well,
hold on, sorry, I picked up another car.
Back off enough.
9 seconds to go, he comes past it. No, he's doing another lap.
Waves him through, the checkered flag is not out, so time has now elapsed. So
now it has.
Yeah, the following battle for second, Malcolm Paul and Oliver Marseille, they get this lap as well, so extra bonus for Oliver, but his moss green car has just come past us and he's now been dropped by the second place, the red Mark 10 Lotus Bristol, and he's now 4.3 seconds back, so that battle appears to be completely defused.
So I think there were 4 to 5 seconds on the clock when, still left on the clock when Miles Griffiths went past, and so this is the final lap. His advantage is 11 seconds. Yes, it's come down, he's backed off a bit, but who will finish in second place? I think Malcolm Paul does have the legs over Olivier Marseille. In the last 2 laps, he's not just put himself back in front after the order was swapped, but pulled 4.3 seconds clear, and on this lap, he's still edging out yet further. And
he's coming up behind car number 19, Simon Askett. Simon was battling with Lutz Rathenau's. Simon in that red car, number 19, Tojeiro Bristol, and it was the Veritas of Lutz Rathenau that was battling with him. You can see the silver car just a little further back. Aldeida passed him just coming past the start-finish line, so that battle has been decided in favour of Simon Askett. He qualified just a little quicker than the Veritas, and has proved in the race just to have enough. They did come a couple of laps nose to tail past the pits, but that battle has been diffused. But Miles Griffiths from pole position dominated the start and has dominated the race. Victory will go to the Kieft 1100, and Miles Griffiths takes the checkered flag now, having completed a total of 13 laps, and he will finish a dozen or so seconds, a little less than that, ahead of the Lotus Mark 10 Bristol. Malcolm Paul in second place, the red car crosses the line, and Oliver Marseille in third position. That was a late addition to that car, but has thoroughly proved that that is a very quick machine.
We might have a change of position coming up. We're still waiting for fourth place Manuel Elisab to come through, but the battle for fifth, 5, 2, 7 and 12, it's very close indeed in this gaggle of Maserati A6 GCSs. Will it be Sukari or Siletsky? We'll have to
Elisab comes across the line in fourth, and will traffic have anything to say about it? 5:27 in fifth place.
Okay, so that's Sukari's gone ahead, Manuel Siletsky, so that was changed around. Joseph Otten-Rettenmeier in the what had been the fastest of the Maseratis, coming back through, nearly catching the pair.
That's Siletsky. That was the end of that battle. So his Mazda, no, he has looped it around by the chicane. And so that battle very much diffused. There you go, on the grass around the outside of the final corner. Easily done, very, very easily done. And a great plan view of that pretty Maserati. Well, there is the Kieft again. If you put a Trident on the grille, you'd be going, oh dear, Maserati have lost their touch a little in terms of prettiness, but it is a very effective weapon, and in the hands of Miles Griffiths, very quick indeed. I think maybe it's hard to imagine how you could actually genuinely get anybody inside either of those passenger seats, but I didn't realise that the three-seat McLaren F1 concept was quite as old as this. It's yes, they've stolen an idea from a 1950s Kieft on the seating positions, but you know, it places the driver perfectly in the centre line of the car and in the centre of the weight transfer front to rear as well. So a very, very handy place for Miles Griffiths to be. He can feel everything the car is doing. Boy, he was pretty relentless there, wasn't he? Again, with not too much opposition close behind him. The enjoyment there is trying to make every lap a little bit more perfect than the previous. And he didn't do a bad job at all.
So the top three cars will assemble down on the start-finish line because they've done the start. This is the finish, and they will be interviewed by Ed Foster when they get down there. So it's Miles Griffiths taking victory in that Kieft 1100. That's car number 5, joined by a pair of Lotuses, and Malcolm Paul worked very hard and got that second place, and third place to Olivier Marseille. So our first top 3 of the day here in the gorgeous sunshine at the 2022 Goodwood Revival.
And as is tradition, there's no cash, there's no championship points on offer, there's no bonus money. There is a traditional laurel garland for the winner and a cigar. So those are cherished as highly as any brown envelope full of white fivers might have been in the past. And again, Miles Griffiths, his first winner of the day. And there will be a number of workshops up and down the country next week with fresh laurels very proudly displayed on the walls, because this race meeting, this creation of His Grace has become just such a key element of British motor racing, but of global historic racing as well. Let's hear from our top 3 drivers. Ed Foster is ready to pounce.
Olivier, what a fantastic race that was. I mean, you had him in the middle of it, but couldn't quite hold on.
I mean, I really tried. The car started to get a bit hot, and I tried to follow, and he was faster than me, and off.
Oh, very honest. You're clearly not a racing driver.
I mean, if someone's faster than you, you've got to admit it at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful drive. Well done.
Thank you.
Right, let's find Malcolm. We'll go over here. Sorry, Olivier. Malcolm Paul just receiving his cigar. Malcolm, you could never quite relax, could you?
No, Ollie kept me honest on that. Yeah, I was still a bit lucky. We had a bit more top-end power than he did. So, yeah, no, it's a very good race. Very good.
Looked like you were having fun.
Indeed we were. Yeah, privileged to be here.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Right, let's find Miles, first place by some margin. Miles, you're not really sweating. You made that look a little bit easy.
Yeah, I sort of wanted to get a gap after making a good start because I was expecting these guys to be a bit quicker, but I guess they sort of held each other up. So I managed to make an escape and enjoyed cruising around in the sunshine. It's great fun.
Not a bad start to the day. Put it on the front row of the grid in the Sussex Trophy, and now you've won this.
Yeah, obviously I had a bit of an advantage just getting out of another car, so done some laps this morning, but no, it was great fun. Loved it.
Congratulations.
Cheers, thanks.